this was a big Rolex introduction. It's just
Huge.
Rolex doesn't introduce new models all the time. So there were variants and there was a lot of different nuanced changes, which is what Rolex does. But there was so many other brands.
Watches and Wonders 2021 feels like it was a very long time in the making. I'm excited to talk about it. What do you guys think?
Very excited to talk about it. It was a long time in the making because the buildup was for months. I mean, we were talking about it on shows and contemplating what it was going to happen, and then finally it got here, and then it was just a whirlwind of day after day after day after day. So many new introductions, so much to cover, and almost too much, I think, at this point, because I'm still finding stuff every day.
Exactly as you said, it was a long time in the coming. I think that watch consumers all across the world were excited that it was here. We missed Basel World last year, given everything that was going on in the world. And I just think that the event, people were almost took it for granted almost, that it came and went every single year. And like by the time it came back, I'm like, oh my God, yes.
I couldn't agree more. This year in particular, I feel like people took for granted. I thought the releases were awesome. I thought there were a lot of really good releases, and all I hear is underwhelming.
I see. I guess I hear some of that. I think mostly because of the anticipation, especially in a brand like Rolex, where everybody was coming up with all these great ideas and crazy things that just don't happen with Rolex. Kind of the closeout of having Patek do that second release that really, to me, knocked it out of the park, really set up and kind of finalized the whole event.
No, and there were lots of releases from brands that I think maybe didn't garner as much attention. Vacheron, for example, I thought came out with some beautiful new overseas. Patek having the launch yesterday of the new Calatravas and the 5236 digital Perpetual sort of just was the icing on the cake. But as you mentioned, I think that if for whatever reason Rolex doesn't come out with some crazy new watch, people are somewhat disappointed. And I actually think that they made the right moves this year, every single one.
I totally agree. I feel like people get this pent up Rolex excitement and they read the press, they read the presumptions, they read everybody's blog, and then when none of that comes true, they get mad.
Well, I feel like we got everything. I mean, we certainly expected a new Explorer 2. That was a given. I think part of the disappointment was the new Explorer 2 is very much like the sub, whereas, from more than 3 feet away, it looks exactly the same.
Small refinements.
Yeah, but much better movement, better bracelet, better
proportions.
Better proportions. Everything about it is better. But I think because the color dials last year really set the world on fire and shocked everybody, there wasn't a shocking announcement, except, the meteorites were really cool, awesome change. But again, not a shocking development. So there wasn't that thing that blew you out of the water. But I was so excited to be able to get a new Batman. Finally.
Yep.
I love my old
Pepsi
one.
on Oyster, it's awesome.
The meteorites blew me out of the way. I love meteorite dials.
Everybody loves meteorite. I don't know. I know we definitely share it on the GMT. I love that watch. But yeah, the meteorite Daytona now, that yellow gold one, especially in the bracelet, spectacular.
And I like how they brought it out across the whole model line, so that it's not just one watch that everybody's gunning for. It's like you'll have folks ordering it on Oyster Flex, you'll have those that want it in rows on a bracelet. So I think that it actually takes some of the pressure off the line in general by having it just be an available dial across the
Yeah, no, and I mean, let's be honest. Rolex is basically a dial business. They do movement upgrades. The new movements are great. But the new dials, the Palm dials are great.
The Palms are awesome.
The new Stone dial. I mean, that to me is just
Eisenkeisel.
I can't wait for Eisenkeisel.
So cool. And
nobody was talking about it.
Nobody even thought that was going to be a release.
Right.
Regarding the meteorite, they did I just saw a fully gem set Sky Dweller with a meteorite.
Yeah.
And it's everything. It's like I want to take out a second mortgage on my house and get it, and it wouldn't be enough.
I was going to say second mortgage won't cut it because I think it was like 650,000 euro.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think also, again, when you have a brand as strong as it is, and you have the wait lists that are out there for the yellow gold Daytona green dial, even the platinum Daytona now, virtually almost every model within the line, if they had come out with a whole nother slew of watches that created the same situation, I think it makes it even more difficult for them.
It would have exacerbated the problem we already have.
Correct. In this way, they They didn't discontinue some of the watches that people thought they were going to discontinue.
Thankfully.
They kept them there in the line. They added the oyster bracelets for the GMTs.
Which I think is huge that people are underplaying.
Totally, I think that's huge too. It's options. It's more SKUs, but in a good way.
Correct. And it'll relieve a little bit of pressure on the GMT. You can now order it any which way.
Still prefer
hopefully
the Jubilee.
prices regulate a little bit for the
crazy.
Jubilee pieces. But
Why would you want a Jubilee on a sport watch?
no, I mean, I think them coming out with the 36 millimeter Explorer was a great move, right? They didn't have a mid-size sport watch in the entire line. So they had discontinued the mid-size Yachtmaster forever ago. If you wanted a 36 millimeter sport watch, you were pretty much getting an OP or a 36 millimeter Datejust. So
which isn't very sporty.
Correct.
Exactly. No, that was a great addition. I think they did a great job. Again, I think it was just the hype built up on, we're going to have a new Daytona, we're going to have this crazy thing, and
The hype came from absolutely nowhere. It came from Instagram, and it's just.
But it was really well done. You got to admit, some of the creative Photoshop work that people are doing on Rolex was spectacular.
The Photoshop on that hang tag, the 126500,
Yes.
looked amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
So people obviously have way too much time on their hands.
More than me.
Yes, exactly.
I love what people call up and they're like, no, I know the guy who got the picture. I'm like, well, obviously you don't know him that well.
I love a few years ago, people were calling, I know Rolex is going to release a new Coke GMT and I want to be first on the list.
Right.
That's not how it works.
Not how it works. No.
But you know what I think? I think the launches from, even Moser, for example, came out with the Mega Cool, which is a great dial. They're doing exactly what's in their, they're doing their bread and butter and doing within their DNA, like unique, cool dials, cool concept watches.
The Tiger Eyes were awesome.
The Tiger Eyes were
great. I love
So
Tiger Eye. Love
cool.
Stones. Both of those were cool. They've done a great job. I love my Langes. I know I can't get a plug in elsewhere. But I mean, the new triple split color is spectacular, and that Perpetual Calendar is killer. I certainly don't want to talk to any of the guys who bought it as the tourbillon piece for north of 300, but it is an awesome piece and a great size. I mean, I like the bigger.
Even the little Longa with the aventuring dial.
That is
awesome.
I think that was my favorite release from them this year.
It is gorgeous. I mean, the little stars, the dial, everything.
I think they knocked that out of the park. I think the moon phase fits in so well. I didn't even notice that it was a moon phase.
The first time I looked at it, I was the same way.
Yep.
It took me a minute to say, oh, wow, it's not the same little one.
Exactly.
But it's not even that small. It's like 36.8 or 36.9 millimeters. So
Correct.
it's a
Just about the right size for you.
Yeah, exactly. I have the wrist for vintage pieces.
Yes, I have the wrist for deep sea.
Yeah, deep seas and 48 millimeter Panerais.
Exactly. I'm the last guy who still wants one.
What about JLC's $1 million plus Reverso?
Well, I got a lot of crap on a couple of the shows I did because, like, oh my God, you didn't even talk about the $1 million Jaeger. A $1 million Jaeger just doesn't set me off the same way. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it's cool, but like, they're gonna make what? 3 of them. $1 million. It was $1.6 million, I think, or something crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mechanical feat.
Right.
I almost look at it in the same way that when Vacheron Constantin does one of these crazy, crazy complicated watches that takes years of development.
The split Hertz movement.
But see, honestly, in my little brain, I get it more with Vacheron because that was always what they've done. Patek does it when Vacheron does it, even when AP does it. But I don't put Jaeger in that same category. I love Jaeger, but it's to me more of a mid-tier than those truly traditional upper tiers. So like $1 million Vacheron, I would have paid a lot more attention to.
See,
I wonder how wearable it is too.
Impossibly unwearable. I can guarantee that is an actual brick on the wrist. I mean, Reverso in general is very particular with case size. So, I mean, I have like a 7-inch wrist, give or take, so limited, but Grand Tie is basically as big as I can go, I think. And that watch is going to be 16 millimeters thick. It's going to, it's going to be insane. It's very cool, but to your point, it's interesting that you say that, but I hearken to like a gyro tourbillon when I think of ultra high-end Jaeger.
Right,
and that's
that
the
was
peak of the peak.
300,000,
exactly.
not a $1.6 million.
Exactly.
I
That's
mean,
the
that was
peak
a
of
whole
the
different
peak.
animal. This was, I just thought it was too far of a reach. I didn't get that excited about it. And then the other thing I looked right next to it is, we did a Reverso with a green dial. What a very creative idea this year to do a green dial.
Groundbreaking.
It's like everybody on the planet does green. I don't understand why we had so many things that were either derivative or what everybody else was doing. I get fed up with the copycat stuff, but there was a lot of that too.
Well, I mean, there's always trends that you see. We've talked about it on the shows before. Like, I want to say last year, or the year before, everybody did bronze.
Yeah.
So everybody
Bronze took a few years, though. I felt like I felt
like
like
2 years.
Panerai did it
Yeah.
first, and it took a couple years, and then everybody did it. Like this green thing was like they all got on the phone and said, "All right, what are we doing this year? Green, green,
Well, like,
green,
you
green."
needed
We
a
have too
different.
much blue
And then
already.
Patek's like, "No, I'm not doing green. I'm doing olive."
Theirs is the nicest green though that was done.
By the
this
way,
year.
it really is.
But no, I mean, I think that there's always going to be trends. They needed something other than a blue dial to come out with.
You never
Black-
need anything other than a blue dial. I mean, I love blue dials. Green.
I say how fatty green is while I'm wearing a green watch is the thing. You
I know it does look good on you. Just again, it was like everybody doing the same thing. But there were a couple companies who went off the reservation a little bit. I know Brian's a big AP guy.
You love the new release, don't you?
I think I heard him saying he was thinking against
Listen,
one.
I heard him say that he was the high bidder at the auction.
All right, so give us your
Talk to me.
feedback
You've
on
seen
it.
it in
I mean,
person,
obviously, it
obviously.
made a big impression because
I'm not a
it did
fan of the
much.
watch.
You love the watch.
No, you can't even say something
It's
like
your
that
favorite.
on camera.
He told us it was his favorite release.
It was distinctive. I will give it that. It is certainly something that I don't get still to this day, but
I think that as a concept, it's not a bad train of thought.
I agree.
RM puts lollipops on their watches. They're sold out. You can't get them.
Snoopy.
They put a Pharrell. They made a Pharrell watch with an
Astronaut.
astronaut that sells for $2 million. It retails for $1 million. So there's a litany of brands that have done similar types of things. Whether it was the Snoopy,
Right.
The Snoopy makes
Argento wa-
sense.
The Snoopy, I actually think between the Snoopy and the original Argento pieces,
Correct.
as far as how it was playful, the dial is a little bit different than this.
Right.
Like this is full. Like this is like
This
you
is
went
a-
all
this
in.
is-
That was a little bit more playful, but I think the comparison that was probably used internally was RM makes these concept watches. They can do whatever they want on these pieces, and they sell for. They have the mask, the pirate mask watch. That's RM that sells for crazy numbers. So I think like that was probably the train of thought. But I think it just became a whole thing. Like I didn't think that the spectacle of it needed to be this big.
I think I agree completely. They made this their big launch, if you think about it.
Right. And
I mean,
didn't think
their
it needed
other
to be.
launch they did pre-show, and it was just green
Green.
dials, okay, on a few different variations. But they didn't really have another primary launch besides this. And this is not a mainstream piece. Was my only issue with it. Yeah, you could do it, make one, sell it for charity, do whatever you want to do, but to make this priority.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Or make a certain amount and just have it be like, hey, this is a concept that we're doing. It's a partnership with Marvel. We're going to make X number of pieces, and like it's a low-key release as part of it. Now, people love to hate, especially on social. So no matter what they would have done, it probably would have gotten negativity. I've seen some of the photos I've seen on Instagram though. It does look a little different than it does in the marketed photos.
Well,
It
I
is
mean, hold on. I got
hand-painted.
one more important thing. The main reason they had to do it, I think, was just so now nobody's complaining about the 1159.
Exactly. Or you may have to buy a code in order to get the Panther, but they did.
So
but they did change, and then I'll let you go.
Yeah, thank you.
They did. They made it smaller. They made it thinner. So I think that overall, as a design, you see where the concept is going. Like they're going to make it a smaller 42 millimeter watch, a little bit thinner. I'm sure it's not just going to be used for Marvel.
Correct. They'll go
but-
into different things with it, which I think makes sense. But
The execution overall is it's awful everything, but executed extremely well. Like it is not my taste other than the fact that it's purple. But yeah, it's a hand-painted Black Panther. Yeah, it went to charity, which for the record, I think that's what they probably should have done with it. I'm glad to see that happening.
100%.
And whoever's wearing it, I hope they love it, ultimately.
There's a lot of other designs that they could have done that probably would have paid homage to Black Panther in a more subtle way.
right.
So, but that being said,
They could have done a
it's
Black
hindsight.
Panther mask watch in the vein of the Vacheron mask dials, and it would have been better. But they had to do Black Panther in a Spider-Man pose that's hand-painted, that looks like carbon fiber, that makes the watch another 4 millimeters thicker. That it's just the sum of the whole ended
Tell
up
us how
being
you really
too
feel.
much. What's that?
so tell us how you really
Yeah,
feel.
seriously.
I know he's holding back on us again.
Well, listen, hey, I've been told recently that I love watches too much, so I have to give some flack here.
all right. Well, we gave some flack. So, what was the best release for the show?
I love the gem set Nautilus.
Great call.
I love
So
it too.
I mean, again,
Especially in steel.
the fact that it's in steel, they haven't done that before. I love that they didn't put the baguettes on the dial. I think that it gives it a completely different look. As far as diamonds go, it's actually subtly done when you see it in the flesh. Like, it's not overpowering. It's not, even though they're calling it an olive, it's more of a blue-green. It depends on the light that you're in.
I've noticed that in live shots.
And so it's very much getting the right angle. It does appear to be more green, but when you're looking at it just head on, there's some blue in there, and I just think the watch was executed perfectly. It's low production. I love that they went with it in steel. And then my second favorite lease, also Patek, is the 5236, which is the new digital perpetual straight
100%.
line.
It's
awesome.
I just think it's Patek doing what Patek does best. They are paying homage to a piece in the museum. They are giving consumers what they want, a slightly larger watch. It's at
Correct.
41.9 millimeter.
Size is great,
The movement itself is beautiful. They went with a platinum micro rotor, that gives it
Next level.
a next level look. And I just think they made the right moves this year. I just think like
They knocked it out of the park. I was
park.
a complete agreement. My two favorites were the Patek Perpetual and the Lange Perpetual. And for the last couple of years, I feel like Perpetual calendars had kind of like become not the cool thing. So I think it's great to see two, big brands, come out with serious Perpetual calendars that are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I loved, I'm remiss to say Patek, but I love the 6119.
Mm-hmm.
I think the 6119G is everything they needed to do with Calatrava, and I want one. I could see everybody from a 23-year-old just out of college to Mike Manjos to a 90-year-old man wearing that watch, and I think it's awesome. Double hobnail coin edge, so cool, good size, 65-hour power reserve.
Yeah, the movement's amazing.
And a movement that
Finally.
looks like Patek made it, and I mean that in the truest form of.
it's gorgeous.
Giving
It's
a
gorgeous.
compliment.
I complained for years, just like, guys, you're using the same movement you've been using
Yeah.
since the 70s.
Yeah.
It's time to step up, and they went 2 steps up, in my opinion. I
And
mean,
this movement will last them another 40 years.
let's hope not, but
But it could. I mean, listen.
The fact that they kept the hobnail, which is so
Needed it.
synonymous with the line, like where it's almost sort of saying like, listen, like this is part of our DNA, and you younger consumers, like this is what we're coming out with, and like that's what I think a young consumer that's looking to get into the line that wants a dressier watch, like it's like a crossover of history almost.
Well, I think they also did is they now, over the last 2 years, when you said Patek, you thought sports watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that was really where they want to go. So
Correct.
I think now they've reset the bar by doing a couple of launches. I still think we'll see another annual calendar because the 38 annual calendar is awesome.
It is
Love it
awesome.
in steel, love it in the bracelet. But pitching it as a
Unisex.
ladies watch it.
It's actually being pitched as unisex.
So it's a.
Starts with a 4. It's a ladies,
ladies
watch.
reference.
That's
Thank
Patek
you.
Philippe's rules.
but
how
I
the numbering
agree,
system works.
From sizing, from looks, it's totally unisex. The linen, the crosshatch linen style dials
It's
are
feminine.
a little feminine,
Right.
But it's very well done.
New bracelet.
New bracelet
Very
is
nice.
great, but I would assume we'll see another new annual calendar, maybe in a bigger size now that we went 41 on the Perpetual.
The caliber didn't change on that.
No, it didn't.
Yeah,
But
so-
we still need, they need to replace 5146.
I think
mean,
if
they
they-
certainly will come in time.
I think a 5146 replacement is definitely due, but I keep thinking, are they going to have this communication between lines, this communication between Calatrava to their complications, to Grand Comps? And it seems like they're starting that with the new style of cases, right? You have the 5172 with the stamped style case. You have the 5320 with the stamped deco 30s, 40s case. Now you have the 5236, you have the 6119s, all with these similar lug shapes, and I'm really loving that lineage throughout, that kind of
Little design consistency.
communication,
Yeah.
design consistency. Thank
Yeah.
you. I think they're nailing their product line. So, what did you guys think about Tudor? We talked a lot about Rolex, talked a lot about Patek, but what do you think
I
about
thought
Tudor?
that, first of all, 2 shocking releases from Tudor. The green with the gold. I mean, beautiful color and a gold Tudor on a strap. Certainly nothing we were expecting. I think it's awesome. We're going to see how the market responds to the $16,000 Tudor, but I think it'll do well. But my really favorite piece was the sterling piece.
Agreed.
It is
Love that watch.
absolutely gorgeous in person, much better than the pictures, taupe. And who would have thought we were going to see a sterling watch from Tudor?
Like in the flesh, like it's almost, like I hate using the word otherworldly, but you're just so not used to seeing like the
Is it the
silver color,
brightness or the-
silver
yeah.
color in a case. Like I think everyone just thinks white metals all look the same.
They don't.
But like white gold does look very different than steel when you have them next to each other. And platinum and white gold look pretty similar, but at the end of the day, like it has like this. I hate using the
Warmness.
word. I hate using the word silver to describe a silver case, but like there's like there's a warmth to
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah,
then the
there's no
taupe
question
is
about
the
it.
perfect color. I can't wait to see how it patinas, but it definitely is a great complement to everything else that they have in the line.
I love the silver too. I think it's going to be cool to see how it patinas. I actually think they picked the dial color based off of what patina will accrue. And I think the dial color got unnecessary flack, but I think it's perfect.
Oh, in the flesh,
It's beautiful.
It's amazing.
I didn't see any fleck, and I do like the new Chronos.
I
too.
was just about to say,
looking
love
for
the
the new
Chronos.
Chronos. I thought we would see that. I think they did a great job. I mean, Tudor's been on fire for the last couple of years, and this is just going to make it even better.
And even the silver dial smooth bezel black bays, I thought that's
Yeah.
a really, really cool tone-on-tone watch.
Yeah.
And the gold, I think, is going to do well. I mean, it looks great. I thought green was the right choice for the color, all things considered,
All
with
things
everything that's
considered
going on
this
in
year,
the
it
year.
had to be
But
green.
you know what? Rolex makes a yellow gold sub.
Right.
They make it with black. Like I thought to just do a yellow gold with blue or a yellow gold with black would have been a little bit too similar. Then
Right.
by doing green, it's like you're different. The price is actually very good relative to what other yellow gold sports watches out there cost. And again, I think it's just another example of them adding something unexpected that fits in with the rest of the line.
You got my attention, baby.